All right, good morning. Welcome to the 294th District Court. I am Judge Chris Martin. It is good to be back in the courtroom to see a lot of you individuals, but in order for us to keep on continuing to come to the courtroom, I think it's going to be imperative that we maintain social distancing, that we wear a mask as much as possible so we don't find ourselves where we were a few months ago. So I would appreciate your cooperation. When you're in the courtroom, stay spread out as much as you can, make use of the entire room. When you're in the hallways, if you would do me the favor of putting on the mask and being careful about overcrowding the elevators and the hallways and common areas, I would appreciate it. I'm going to call this morning's docket. When I call your name, if you're present in the courtroom, please say present or here. If any defendants are appearing online, I will try to notate that on the docket and make that announcement as well. After I do that, then counsel, I'm going to ask for anyone who is agreed with short announcements or settings. If you have other settings that you have to make it to another court, if you'll let me know, I'll try to work you in. I've already been communicated with by a couple of attorneys, so we'll try to take that as we can. Rochelle Coffer or Coffer. Thank you. Tristan Kimmerling. Tristan Michael Kimmerling. Let's see, have verified in custody in Wood County. Jessica Sotillo. Thank you. Grace Fowler. Thank you, Ms. Fowler. Matthew Gould. Robert Yates. Robert Brandon Yates. Wendy Ledoux. Thank you, Mr. Claybeer. Stephen Gandy. Stephen Paul Gandy. Mr. Elliott, is he speaking with Mr. Elliott outside? I saw Mr. Elliott. I just wonder if Mr. Nicholas, you saw Mr. Gandy? Okay. Jeffrey Caldwell. Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Abel Burgess. Thank you, Mr. Kimmel. Carl Klump. Carl Gene Klump. Karen Sue Burton. Clifton Gross. Mr. Gross can be a plea this morning? Okay, thank you, sir. Calixto Rosa? Yeah, what's your head there, Mr. Manning? Taylor Godfrey? See if Taylor Godfrey appears to be online.
That's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Jameel Thompson. Thank you, sir. William Ivy. Jacqueline Jacobs. James Gray. James Cody Gray. Kimberly Marshall. Stormy McCoy. Michael Watkins. Leslie Gibson. Leslie Denise Gibson. Mr. Stevens, have you had any contact with Ms. Gibson?
Judge, not in about a month. Matter of fact, last week.
Thanks, sir. Leonard Williams or Leonard Williams.
Spoke to Mr. Williams yesterday morning, Your Honor, and he understood.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Misty Munn. Joel Downs. Colton Green. Thank you, sir. Christopher Hunley. Mr. Hunley is appearing online. Dylan Kohler. Simon Mahoney. Michael Ringgold. Gabriel Romero. Bobby Slagle. Mr. Slagle will be a plea this morning as well.
Yes, sir, it will be.
Eulalio Soto. Mr. Soto is appearing online. If I didn't say that right, Mr. White, you can
Yes, sir.
correct that for me later. John Lapano. And Mr. Lapano appears online. All right, is there anyone who's in court whose name I have not called? Anyone that's present in court whose name I have not called? All right, council, not all at once, but someone give me an idea of who may be ready with quick announcements or agreed resets. And I'm gonna take these individuals in the courtroom first, council online, and then once I get an announcement, I'm just gonna get an announcement in order, and then I'm gonna ask online at council. So Mr. Perkins? Okay, all right, if you'll just give that to one of the bailiffs or give it to the state. Mr. Elliott? So plea, reset, Mr. White, reset, Mr. Gimbel?
One each, plea and a reset.
Plea and a reset. We have a plea. All right, and Mr. Robertson, what do you have?
Judge, I think it's a great reset.
Agreed reset?
Yes, Your Honor.
What about Mr. Wood?
Judge, it's also going to be a reset. Need to meet with my client and go over everything with him.
Mr. Wood, do you have any other settings this morning that you're trying to get to?
Judge, I do. I have federal court this morning or this afternoon, and then some in Cherokee County as well. So,
Mr. Robertson, what time is your next setting?
Judge, my setting was at 9, but I told him I'd probably be 20 minutes or 30 minutes late.
Okay, all right. Mr. Parrish, what do you have this morning?
Your Honor, we have an agreed reset. We're close to a plea agreement on my case. My next setting is at 11 this morning, and then I have federal court, like Mr. Wood does, at 2 o'clock.
Okay. Mr. Ashmore?
Morning, Your Honor. We are just going to ask for a reset on, hang on, let me get my docket sheet up, Your Honor. We're going to be asking for a reset on Ms. Fowler. We're working with the state, trying to get to an agreement. Mr. Gould same, and Mr. Yates is requesting a trial setting.
Thank
So
you.
it'll be a short order, Your Honor.
Does any other council have a setting right now in another court or Zoom? You do?
Yes.
What time and where?
Right now.
Where?
Like 4 cases and the 3 medicine.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So I'll call you first, Mr. Stevens, and then Mr. Robertson. I'll be right with you, sir. All right, Mr. Stevens, if you'll step up to the center podium or the side podium here. Is Leslie Gibson here? Leslie Denise Gibson. Mr. Nicholas here. Leslie Gibson. Leonard Williams. Leonard Williams. Those are the only two that you have today, Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
All right. If your clients appear later this morning, will you be available by Zoom if we contact you?
Yes, sir.
You will be?
I'll back here this afternoon.
You will be at the jail? I may have your clients waiting for you. We'll see. All right. All right.
My cases are set at 3 o'clock at the jail. It's gonna be a plea. I'm in the 397 also today, so I may not be there by 3. I just want to let you know.
Maybe a little later than 3.
Yes, sir, maybe. I'll see it.
Okay. If you'll do that, we appreciate it.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, Mr. Robertson,
Yes, Your Honor.
get to your client here. Jamil Thompson. Mr. Thompson, if you'll make your way to that center podium. And do we have a microphone for Sergeant Carter? Do we have a microphone for the defendants? All right, this is CR 10-176, State versus Jamil Mustafa Thompson. Hearing on the motion to revoke. Go ahead, Mr. Robertson.
Judge, I've been communicating with the district attorney's office. I've been furnishing them some information on this case. They wanted him to get registered for a course. He has registration paperwork. He's registered for that course. I sent it to the district attorney's office yesterday. I think they are not opposed to a resetting for maybe 20 or 30 days, John, and he should be finished with that course in 2 weeks.
Any objection, Mr. Woodwhite?
Judge, I'm unaware of that. I'm assuming Ms. Heisel is the speaker. We have no opposition to that.
It was with Hillary, Your Honor.
Okay.
I assume, Judge, that would be my understanding. We have no objection.
Are you available on April 27th, Mr. Robertson?
That'd be fine, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Thompson, the court's going to reset your motion to revoke to April 27th at 9 a.m. And if somebody can give me some notice of settings, I'll fill those out. That's all right. All right, Mr. Thompson, I'm going to have the bailiff bring you this notice or this appearance and announcement form. Sign that. We're going to give you a copy of it and that'll have your next date on it. And then you'll be free to go. Mr. Robertson, you're free to go.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks, sir. All right, Mr. Wood, all you have is Mr. Lopano. Is that correct?
That's correct, Judge.
All right, let me bring Mr. Lopano in. All right, I've asked Mr. Lopano to unmute and turn on his camera. All right, Mr. Lopano, I'm going to ask you to unmute your device, stabilize it. You can get it real still for me. This is cause number CR 2396, State versus John Anthony Lopano. We're appearing online, as well as Mr. Jeff Wood, counsel for Mr. Lopano, appearing online. Mr. Wood, this is set for pretrial today. Are there any contested pretrial motions?
Judge, I don't believe so.
All right, there being no contested pretrial motions, court's going to set Mr. Lopano then for docket call. Are you available on April 27th, Mr. Wood?
I believe that that's available to us, Judge. I think that's the date that I have some other cases as well, so I think that'll work.
I couldn't recall which week it was that you were out, but okay, so we'll set Mr. Lopano then for a docket call on April 27th at 9 a.m. Mr. Lopano, this will be the only notice that you receive from the court. Do you understand your next appearance date?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Lopano, I'm going to order you to appear in person on April 27th. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Wood, Mr. Lopano is delinquent $450 on his pretrial supervision. Court's going to take that up on 4/27. So
Sure, Judge.
if you'll just discuss the ramifications of that and what the court's most likely going to do if he's not caught up on his payments.
I will absolutely do that, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. All right, Mr. Lopano, I'm going to order you to report to your pretrial release officer this week. So if you haven't done that this week, you need to contact them and set up an appointment. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
All right, you're free to go.
Thank you.
That's all you have, Mr. Wood?
Judge, we've all I have this morning in this court. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. I'm going to try to bring Mr. Godfrey in. All right, Mr. Godfrey, I'm going to ask you to unmute your device. All right, this is cause number CR 2337, State versus Taylor Godfrey, and we're set for docket call today, Mr. Parrish.
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor.
Is there any announcement? Is Mr. Godfrey requesting a jury trial or a bench trial, or are we going to resolve the case by plea?
Your Honor, at this time, we don't have any contested pretrial issues. We would request a reset to April the 27th. I think the state and I are close to having this case resolved with a plea agreement.
They concur in that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Sergeant Carter, if you can, will you just move that podium? The state's going to be working it there. Yeah, if you can just move it over there, that's fine. That way they can be seen on camera. And you said that's acceptable to the state, Ms. Heisel?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Godfrey, court's going to order you to appear in person for docket call on April 27th at 9 a.m. This will be the only notice that you received. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, you're free to go.
All right, thank you.
Welcome. Is that all you have, Mr. Parrish?
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good to see you.
Good seeing you.
All right, Mr. Perkins is a plea. What was yours, Mr. Elliott? PTI. Who had agreed resets with the state? Mr. Manning, if you'll step up. Is it Mr. Rosa? Calixto Rosa, if you'll make your way to the center podium. All right, this is cause number CR 2409, State versus Calixto Rosa, and we're set for pre-trial today, Mr. Manning.
That's great. Judge, we're gonna ask for, we reset on pre-trial, we don't have a lab yet. Substance abuse testing. And additionally, Judge, we're waiting on associated case lab on that piece as well. I would ask for just a regular reset.
All right, the state being in agreement, the court will reset this for an additional pre-trial. Are you available on April 27th?
Yes, Judge, I am.
All right, Mr. Rosa, you have a notice of setting form. All right, Mr. Rosa, once you receive your appearance and announcement form and you sign that with Mr. Manning, that you'll be free to go, and we'll see you back on April 27th at 9 a.m. Yes. Mr. Gimbel, did you have an agreed reset?
We have Mr. Plum that I spoke to last night and have not seen him yet this morning. At the state, I think that they're going to have him let me custody.
Do you have,
I just said on the reset, I don't know whether you want to go ahead and set it for a day, or whether you want to issue this invitation back to court and wait to see what happens with that.
yeah, I'm not, if he's not here, he's not going to get a future date. He'll get a warrant. That's the deal I'll make with him. So is that all you have, Mr. Gimbel?
And I have a plea paperwork complete on first.
Okay. Mr. White, what did you have?
I just have one reset.
Miss Misty Ladon Munn. Miss Munn, if you'll make your way to the center podium. This is CR 2350. You're requesting an additional docket call. Okay. Any objection from the state? April 27th acceptable? All right, Ms. Munn, the court's going to order you back on April 27th at 9 a.m. You'll sign your appearance form and then you'll be free to go. Ms. Munn, the probation department, pretrial release, they need to see you before you leave. Once you get that form, if you'll just walk back here and see Ms. Burns, after that, you'll be free to go. Mr. Adams, I think you slid in when I was making my announcements. Do you have anything that is agreed as far as plea or reset? Okay. Correct. All right, Rochelle Kofer, CR 2285, CR 2320, set for pretrial today. Are there any contested pretrial motions?
There are not, I need to visit with the state about the plea offer. So this, Governor and I can actually.
Do you feel like you've received all the discovery? You're not waiting on any additional discovery?
To my knowledge, I haven't.
All right, there being no contested pretrial motions, the court will set Ms. Kofer for docket call on April 27th, unless you have any scheduling conflicts.
27.
Yes, sir. April 27th. All right, Ms. Kofer. So April 27th, you're ordered to be back before the court for a docket call at 9 a.m. Before you leave today, I need you to report to my pretrial release department. There's going to be some paperwork for you to sign regarding your conditions of pretrial release. If you have any questions about that, you can discuss that with Ms. Burns and Mr. Adams, okay? So once you sign this form, do you have an appearance form for her, Mr. Adams? Is it on her? Yes.
The court made a ruling on that.
Let me. All right, Mr. Adams, I believe that there was an issue before the court that you had filed a motion regarding an examination. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor. At the outset of the case, I probably was some confidence evaluation in this cover. However, based on the conversations with her since I filed that motion and my understanding of the moral situation, I believe that is no longer needed or warranted, and so I'm going to abandon it.
Okay. All right. With the motion for competency being abandoned, the court then sets this case for docket call on April 27th. So once Mr. Adams gives you that form and you receive the yellow copy, then just step back here and meet with Ms. Burns, and then you'll be free to go. Okay. All right, Mr. Perkins, you ready, sir? Are you ready? You have that paperwork? Oh, okay, thanks. I didn't see it. There it is. And Mr. Perkins, did you say pave? Because I said pave. I texted and I said pave.
I messed it up about 100 times myself.
Pave Williams. And so, ma'am, if you'll just step to your right, Mr. Adams will come and, yeah. Mr. Williams, you'll be there in the center. All right, this is CR 2418, State of Texas versus Pave Markeith Williams. Mr. Williams, if you'll raise your right hand, I'm going to place you under oath. Sir, do you swear that the testimony you give to the court today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you may put your hand down, sir. You are Pave Markeith Williams, correct? And Mr. Williams, are you a United States citizen? Do you read, write, and speak English? Have you ever been diagnosed with any type of mental condition? In this case, you're represented by your attorney, Mr. Robert Perkins. Are you pleased with his representation of you? Do you feel like you've had enough time to discuss your case with him and have all of your legal questions answered? Is there anything about the paperwork that you've reviewed and signed that you do not understand? Mr. Perkins, it's my understanding that your client will be pleading guilty today to a state jail felony offense of possession of marijuana, 4 ounces to 5 pounds, in exchange for the state's recommendation that a finding of guilt be deferred with 4 years community supervision, a $3,500 fine, $180 restitution, $290 court costs, and $35 reimbursement fee. Is that your understanding? Mr. Williams, that's your understanding as well? All right, Mr. Williams, the range of punishment for a state jail felony is confinement in TDCJ for not less than 6 months or more than 2 years. So what that means for you is if the court approves this plea agreement today and places you on community supervision, if during that period of community supervision, you violate and are brought back before the court and the state proves it to the court that you violated, the court could revoke your community supervision and could put you in prison anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. So do you understand that full range of punishment? All right, Mr. Williams, then at this time, I'm going to ask you how you plead to that offense. And Mr. Williams, are you pleading guilty because in fact you are guilty for no other reason? Has anyone threatened to
Hey, can everybody hear me? Hey, Casey.
Yes.
Hey, it looks like we lost connection in the courtroom, so I'm gonna leave the meeting, and judges, and I'm gonna end it. And then that
Okay, I'll
way we
jump
can
out
go
and-
ahead and, you can log back in.
Okay.
Stephanie,
Sorry,
if
Wayne.
you could do the same thing, if you can hear me, if you'll just log back in.